2024 starts off with a sellout and a shutout for the Tigers. Though Brady Cook was a tiny bit off at times, though I'm not worried about it at all, and I'll explain why on Locked On Mizzou.
You are Locked On Mizzou, your daily podcast on the Missouri Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, all you true sons and daughters, I'm John Miller, your Mizzou mafioso and the central scrutinizer of Missouri Tigers football and basketball. Of course, on today's program, got to talk all about the Missouri and Murray State ball game, including taking a closer look at Corey Batoon's defense, which started off his era with a shutout. One thing's for sure, he definitely trusts Dreyden Norwood. There is no question about that. Before I start the show, I want to remind you that today's episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. 5 Hour Energy fixes tired fast with zero sugar in a convenient portable size. It's the perfect pick-me-up for getting stuff done. Go to 5hourenergy.com and use promo code LOCKEDONCFB to receive 20% off your order. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. Go to 5hourenergy.com today. And a really impressive start for Missouri, I would say, for the most part yesterday. And I'll get into all the good stuff for sure as we get into the program here. But you know what? I think maybe the big thing that maybe most Missouri fans are nitpicking here a little bit is Brady Cook yesterday. And I'll tell you this, for all the talk of Brady Cook's arm strength by Missouri fans or questioning his arm strength at times, well, that definitely wasn't the problem yesterday on those deep balls, was it? And I will say this, Missouri, unlike last season, early at this time, one thing I noticed, Missouri was kind of unwilling to put those play action pass deep shots on film last year for week 3 against Kansas State. Well, since those babies are already on film, the Tigers seem to be going, hey, let's just start chucking them up there and establish that once again. Maybe we'll see that intermediate passing game, whatever maybe Missouri may or may not be holding back. Will be interesting to see if that's the case in the coming weeks here. But again, I thought the play action deep balls, balls that weren't even play action, some of the fades, the inside fades, that kind of stuff that was just a tiny bit off at times, not something I'm really going to worry about. And again, I'll give you some good examples here. First of all, the first one to Marquise Johnson here. Let's bring up that play. So first of all, on this play, Brady Cook makes the absolute right decision to throw this ball. I don't think anybody in the world could disagree with that particular analysis. As Daniel Blood goes in motion here, you'll notice number 28, the only safety to Marquise Johnson's side. Well, he goes with him. So what does that tell Brady Cook? Well, that tells him he's got a one-on-one matchup here to the outside, a play-action pass, keeps 28 and everybody else sort of in their position. Well, first of all, look at this route Marquise Johnson runs here on the outside, the left side of your screen, just completely turns the cornerback around and gets utterly and completely wide open immediately. So obviously this was the right throw. Johnson, I mean, it's just right there. It's just beyond his reach. Hits him in the hand. I mean, did Johnson slightly stumble here at any point? No, again, I'm not blaming anybody here. This is just one of those balls. Hey, it's right there. It's obviously the right decision. Maybe Cook should have stepped into this throw and had his base a little bit more under him. I don't know. That's for a quarterback coach to nitpick. That's real tough for me to nitpick. I think that's obviously a good decision. A ball that's just barely off. I'll just tell you, somebody watches the Kansas City Chiefs every week. Even Patrick Mahomes throws one of those balls a little bit too far on occasion. So again, I'm not going to overanalyze that particular pass. Later in the first quarter, Burden gets a similar look, although not off play action this time, to Luther Burden. Again, one-on-one down the sidelines. Burden fakes like he's going outside, comes inside, and really just in terms of placement, where this ball has to be, you look at where Burden ends up, you look at where where this ball is thrown. Cook releases it right here when Burden's at the 40-yard line. He comes all the way across to the other hash mark, essentially. The ball lands at the 10. In terms of placement, I mean, that ball is perfectly placed, really. Again, a ball that's just slightly overthrown by Brady Cook. I don't know. Is Brady a little bit too pumped up for the game? Is he a little nervous in week one? Was he maybe a little bit off his game in week one last year, too? Is he a guy who just needs to get warmed up a little bit? I don't know. I'm glad that they maybe got some of these bad ones, if you will. Some of these just slightly missed deep shots out of their system. I'm glad they're putting it on film because there isn't a team in the country. I understand Missouri is playing Murray State here, but there's not a team in the country defensively that is not going to have problems with this Missouri deep passing game. So let's just get used to it in the real game. Keep throwing them next week too. Every team in the country knows they're going to have to deal with it. Let's just get them dialed in. I think this is just week one stuff here to me. This isn't something to worry about whatsoever. Again, look at the placement of where this ball is. He throws it exactly where it needs to be. The ball's overthrown by what? A yard or two? Hard for me to get on Brady too much for that ball either. And finally on Cook, other than a miscommunication, I thought with Mookie Cooper on his final ball down the field, the consistent problem for Cook in the game, if he was ever off, the ball was just a little bit heavy. It was thrown a little bit too far, a little bit too high. I don't know. That is something, to me, that's something that can be, there's an adjustment there that can be made. I'm just not that worried about Cook at this point, though I will say that is a bit of a consistent problem for Brady, is that when he misses, he tends to miss high. Fortunately, Brady didn't throw a lot of interceptions last season. That is something that's a little worrisome. If you tend to miss high, the ball can tend to be intercepted as well. Now, of course, Brady Cook did a lot of things right in the ball game too. And especially I thought his decision-making was spot on. Again, the accuracy at times on certain balls downfield left a little bit to be desired. And we can argue about our level of concern on that type of deal. But the bottom line is Missouri was up 28-0, had did basically everything you wanted them to do offensively, other than we threw a deep ball a little bit too long. But of course, when Missouri ran a little bit of a trick play, well, then the Tigers hit a little bit of a lull in the second quarter. Didn't do a lot of scoring in that particular quarter. But on that trick play, I will just say this. It's not as though that play wasn't going to work. In fact, if I pull up the film here, as you can see, Missouri puts 4 offensive linemen to the left with Luther Burden. Murray State wondering what the heck is going on here. Now Burden takes the jet sweep, and unfortunately, at first I thought, you know what? I bet Burden was going to throw the ball there. That's why he dropped the pass, the exchange, I should say. But if you look at Theo Weiss on the right, he's not really running much of a pass route there, is he? Now, this is just a jet sweep the whole way. For some reason, the exchange is just fumbled here, but this play was going to work. Look to the right side here. Look at Brett Norfleet. Look at, I believe, number 80 there, Tyler Stevens. I mean, there are 2 lead blockers there. If Burden handles that cleanly at this point, that's probably a touchdown. So to everybody who was whining about the particular play call, I wouldn't whine about the call. Whine about the execution by all means, but that play was definitely going to work. Unfortunately, this was an example of the Tigers shooting themselves in the foot a little bit with the occasional holding penalty, that kind of thing in the second quarter that stalled the offense a bit. But up until that point, the offense and the team in general had executed just about perfectly. And if Eli Drinkwitz and I are right, and that replacing Missouri's NFL corners from last season is maybe the biggest task on this club this past offseason, well, the early returns are very promising. There's no doubt in my mind that Corey Batoon trusts Dreyden Norwood, and also Toriano Pride had a very memorable debut for the Tigers. So let's talk all about all of that here in just a second. First, though, it's time to power through with 5-Hour Energy, because if you've got to tackle a to-do list like I do today, well, 5-Hour Energy fixes tired fast. Whether you have a long list to do for work or a honey-do list at home to tackle, you got to take a 5-Hour Energy shot so you can check everything off of said list. Or maybe you just want to hit it harder at the gym today, power through your 18 holes of golf. Whatever it is, a 5-Hour Energy with zero sugar and a convenient portable size is, no question to me, the perfect pick-me-up for getting stuff done. So if you go to 5hourenergy.com, that is the number 5hourenergy.com, and get some 5-Hour Energy product today. You can use my code LOCKEDONCFB to receive 20% off your order. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. Go to 5hourenergy.com today. All right, this is it. One day before the first real Saturday of college football, you got to get up to speed with Locked On College Football, ACC, SEC, Big 10, Big 12, all the previews. And it's not just national people trying to cover way too many teams. No, you're going to hear from the Locked On experts who cover their team every day. So subscribe to the Locked On College Football podcast on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And I want to talk about the Missouri defense. And one thing I'll say, Dreyden Norwood is looking like a heck of a replacement for at least Ennis Rakestraw or Chris Abrams-Draine, because just based on his usage in this ball game, you could just tell that Corey Batoon basically trusts him to man one side of the field. Now, what you saw schematically, or at least what I saw schematically from Missouri in this ball game, was pretty vanilla defense for the most part, which is exactly what I expected. A lot of cover one, single high safety, man-to-man defense that Missouri ran last year and the year before under Blake Baker. By the way, that wasn't a big surprise. And Missouri ran a lot of cover 3 zone, I would say, as well, too. Probably more zone, I would say, than Blake Baker did last season for the most part. But there was a little bit of a wrinkle that you saw. You saw some combo coverage that Missouri was running. I'm not going to try to guess what the exact call was there, but there's no doubt that, especially, you can tell actually on Toriano Pride's pick 6, the type of coverage that Missouri was running here. And actually, let's bring that up for just a second. Now, on the left side of your screen here is Dreyden Norwood. And if I roll the tape forward here, you'll see that he is playing man-to-man defense on the outside. That's pretty clear, right? So you might think as a quarterback, oh, okay, we're in man here. I don't know if that's what the quarterback thought or not. But you look to the other side of the field, and it's quite clear that Missouri is playing zone on the other side of the field here. And, well, Toriano Pride playing a flat zone here, in no way threatened deep. So he is squatting really, really hard on this route. Now, the good news here is, by the way, Zion Young here, the defensive end on the right side of the offense here, the left side of the Missouri defense, he just completely burned 69 on the inside here, smashes the quarterback in the face, allowing Pride to grab that ball and high-step it on into the end zone for a Missouri touchdown. And by the way, you can see some really good shots of Pride's face as he's running down the sideline with just the biggest smile on his face you've ever seen in your life, which I thought was a cool thing to see as he's come home, as he's called it, back from Clemson to more of his stomping grounds in the Midwest here. The young man who used to be from East St. Louis, Missouri, now back on this side of Missouri, East St. Louis, Illinois, I should say, now on the Missouri side of the Mississippi. But just a great play here, and more to the point, again, back to the other side of the field, Dreyden Norwood, not only is he playing man-to-man defense here, but you'll notice the safety on his side of the field, Marvin Burks, number 1, well, he gives him no help whatsoever. He just squats. He stays in the middle of the field in sort of a robber almost position, playing that part of the field again, I saw this coverage multiple times for Missouri. This is a look I think you'll see quite a bit for the Tigers this season. And what it says is, Dreyden Norwood, we're going to trust you one-on-one on the outside at times. And we're just going to key the rest of the defense to stop the rest of the passing game. Well, on this play, at least with excellent pressure by Zion Young, sure as heck was effective, wasn't it? So I've mentioned Corey Batoon's Missouri debut going well. Of course, Toriano Pride scores a touchdown off an interception in his Missouri debut. Well, Corey Flagg began his Missouri career by attempting to legally murder Murray State's kicker. Now, I love that the Racers were aggressive to start this ball game, but holy cow, that onside kick did not work, to say the least. So let's roll this forward here. Now, first of all, what I love here, Corey Flagg is to the left here, and as you can see, he just destroys the kicker in the back, knocking his helmet off. The kicker's like, oh, I'll just knock this forward and recover it. Didn't quite go 10 yards, so he's going, wait for it. Well, Corey Flagg was not going to let him recover that football, ladies and gentlemen. So great job by him. But before he even destroys 83 here, what I'd like to note is he to the left and also to the man to his right here, at least to our screen's life, actually to Corey Flagg's left, to my right as we view here. Notice both of these guys do not take one false step. Neither one of them goes backwards. They're all ready for an onside kick. That's what I love here. Missouri was incredibly prepared for this moment. And by the way, in 2024 and really the last few years of college football, if you're on that front line of the kickoff there, that should absolutely be your number one priority, is ensuring that the onside kick does not happen. Just make sure that you do not get caught off guard by a surprise onside kick, because 9 out of 10 times that ball is going to be a touchback. It just is. So that's your job on the front line, even more so than being a blocker at this point. But a really smart play by Corey Flagg to stay at home and also just to crush the kicker. The guy's trying to recover the ball there, what's obviously enabled Missouri to recover it there. Excellent job by Corey Flagg, a very legal and solid football play there. I don't know. I just was kind of cracking up, rolling this one back a few times. Call me a masochist, call me a lover of violence, whatever the right term is. But I just kind of enjoyed watching Corey Flagg get him some of that kicker there. Let's just be. And really, one of the only major concerns during the ball game was the status of Brett Norfleet, who left early. Well, Eli Drinkwitz had some encouraging updates for him. So let's talk about Norfleet, and also all systems go so far for the Missouri kicking units. But first, let's talk about FanDuel, because you've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, of course, America's #1 sports book. Well, I have something a little different for you now through September 22nd. FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every single regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel at any time. Just visit FanDuel.com and download America's #1 sports book. You know, the only game that really stood out to me for the most part this week was Georgia -12.5 against Clemson as it stands now. I got to admit, that makes me a little nervous that it's going Clemson's way in terms of the point spread. I was hoping Georgia would be a 14-point or some odd favorite by now, but I'm still leaning toward the dogs, I have to admit, -12.5. But if you disagree with me, you got to go to FanDuel.com and download America's #1 sports book. Fuel up with Factor's no prep, no mess meals. Meet your wellness goals thanks to the menu of chef-crafted meals with options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto. And I'm a big boy. I got to go protein plus. That's definitely my move. But the beautiful thing about Factor is with 35 different meals and more than 60 add-ons to choose from every week, you're going to always find new flavors to experience. I've never gotten in a rut with Factor. Crush your wellness goals this month with dietitian approved meals and ingredients that you can trust. So head to factormeals.com/lockedoncollege50 and use code lockedoncollege50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That's code lockedoncollege50 at factormeals.com/lockedoncollege50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active. It was a quiet game for Brett Norfleet, who had one catch for 4 yards and also left the game early with what looked like a shoulder injury. And there were some worrisome signs and updates on the sidelines at one point, at least from my angle. But after the game, Eli Drinkwood said he'll be, quote, fine. Same thing with Theo Weese's hip injury that was bothering him a little bit in the ball game as well. So fortunately, some good updates there from Eli Drinkwitz and company on the injury side, because I think we're really going to need Brett Norfleet. If anything, I thought Missouri was probably saving some of his passing game usage for the future. So nothing to worry about, not only in terms of injury, but I just think in terms of usage with Norfleet as well. Speaking of worries, well, I said all offseason that Blake Craig. Well, of course, Blake Baker, our former defensive coordinator, is gone. But no, another Blake Craig, the Missouri place kicker. Hey, so far, so good. And of course, 48-0. The spread had actually crawled up a little bit by game time. By kickoff, I believe it was minus 50 or so for Missouri. So there had to be some of you out there who were into that. In fact, as I watched the game back this morning on the ESPN SEC network broadcast, there was definitely one Mizzou fan who was incredibly excited at a clutch field goal by Blake Craig to make it 51-0 for Missouri. Hey, all I know is I told you to stay off of the line. The line was right there. I said to go under, and despite a Toriano pride touchdown, still that hit for you, didn't it? So congratulations to all of you, as usual, who listened to my brilliant betting advice. But the point here really is that Blake Craig looked excellent yesterday. Looked good on the kickoff. Sure, he did. He pulled one out of bounds. Not perfect. Hey, nobody is. But we're more worried about kickoff or actual place kicking than we are kickoffs. And as far as that goes, he showed plenty of leg, plenty of accuracy. So far, so good. And by the way, Luke Bauer, I thought, was a pleasant surprise as well. A guy who was in a camp battle for sure, and a guy who was on and off as the starting punter for Missouri last season, despite being a part of one of the great fake punts and plays in Missouri history. Of course, the touchdown pass to Marquise Johnson against Kentucky. But to me, from what I can tell, that was Luke Bauer's best game as a Missouri punter. He had several punts that were not only 50-plus yards in distance, but had such hang time that they were fair caught as well. It doesn't get much better than that. So hopefully Luke Bauer can keep it up. 2 punts for 97 yards. Yeah, the 52-yarder was fair caught. Really, all systems go so far in the Missouri kicking game, other than that one kick out of bounds. But of course, just one episode of Locked On Mizzou, not going to be enough for all of my thoughts on this opening game. I still gotta get to my thoughts on Drew Pine, how he looked as Missouri's backup quarterback. Also, Kejuan Lacey looking pretty strong in the fourth quarter of that ball game. Got a little get up and go to him. Want to talk about the freshman running back, also just the running back usage as well, which I wasn't able to touch on in this episode. I originally said I'm going to come out with the show on Saturday. I forgot. Oh yeah, there's actual college football, isn't there? Maybe I should put this next episode out on Sunday with no NFL football coming out. So I haven't totally decided, but expect one more recap of Murray State Saturday or Sunday. Got plenty to still get to. So I'm so happy football is here. Can't you tell? I hope you're happy too. And I'm happy that you are here with me right here on Locked On Mizzou.